You're welcome back. This is Business Morning, coming to you live from Channels Television. I am Bolaji Akinwale. Vincent Nwani is the Director, Research and Advocacy at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and he will be talking about the economy at 54. Thank you, Victor, or rather, Vincent, for coming on the program. Thank you so much for your time.
Good morning.
And there is a report here, or like, shall I call it a statement that was released by your chamber. I'd like us to look at it in detail. I tried to talk about that yesterday on the show, just having some kind of preamble to this discussion. We had someone from Carry Assets, and one of the comments that Johnson Chico, who is the CEO at Carry Assets, said was that the economy has recorded a lot of growth. Has moved from where it was pre-democracy era, that's 15 years ago, to where we are. So what's your own view about the growth of the economy?
At LCCI, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, there is no doubt about the fact that Nigeria have grown economically over the last 15 years, as you just quoted. Of course, growing at average of 6%. That is impressive by global standard and even regional standard. We're impressed about that at the chamber. And what we normally say that it is high time we also try as much as possible to see how this impressive growth will trickle down to a better doing business environment, will trickle down to a better quality of life and even security of lives and properties. So over the last 54 years, of course, it will be difficult to just read out the performance of an individual, not to talk about a country over 54 years within 10 or 15 minutes. But again, it's a mixed bag. There are a lot of upside, there are a lot of downside. And that is the way I can summarize it for now. Okay,
I think democracy has really helped our economy to grow, because there is always a link between political stability and economic growth. In your view, how is the fact that we've been able to have uninterrupted democracy for 15 years contributed to where we are, especially when we compare to where we're actually coming from?
Yeah, exactly. One of the upsides of Nigeria at 54 is that Nigeria today can boast as one of the most stable democracies in Africa. That is impressive. Over the last 15 years, since 1999, Nigeria have seen different transition, smooth transition, and we're heading for another one, and hopefully it's still going to be even smoother. That's impressive, and it has contributed to the impressive GDP growth. Beyond stable democracy, there are other things that we can also pride ourselves about over the last 54 years. Of course, in the 70s, late 60s and up to 70s, Nigeria had a very huge challenge of the Civil War, which was also handled, and we are still won. All of these, and we've seen Nigeria survive a serious crisis that in other jurisdictions would have been something else. We've handled that, and even recently we had the president over the last 2 weeks also talking about Ebola. Everybody saw what happened what Nigeria did with the very dangerous disease when it arrived on our shore, and how we all rallied around and brought it to standstill. So these are indicators that, again, Nigeria has a lot of potentials. Where we are now is how do we optimize these potentials, given the upside, given the advantages we've got in our size of economy. Of course, Nigeria's population is between 170 180 million people as we speak, the largest black people on earth. Everywhere you go, you see us. And not only that, young, energetic population, high consuming power, one of the consuming markets. There is nothing you drop that you don't get customers to buy, and not just buy, not just demand, but pay for it. These are advantages that this economy can boast of, and we're happy at the private sector about it. All we need and all we're talking about is how do we convert all of these advantages and take our place, take our rightful place in the Committee of Nations.
Let's talk about the good side. I know there are always two sides of a coin.
Exactly.
Before we move to areas that we need to work on, the business environment. Since 54 years ago, or shall I say 15 years ago, we had democracy, because we've had a mix of military rule and democratic rule, but we've had 50 years of uninterrupted democratic
Democracy.
rule. How would you assess the business environment for investors who are in the country and those willing to come in to, take advantage of the opportunities that we have? What's your assessment of the environment?
Well, my assessment of the environment, average. But you know that an average student is not one of the best students in the class, but it's one of those students. We have done.
Are there things that we've done well?
Exactly.
Done right?
Exactly. Those are the things I just want to highlight. We've done so many things well, but maybe I will approach it sector by sector. Look at our banking and even financial sector. With all of the challenges, infrastructure challenges, institutional challenges, governance challenges, we've seen our banking sector emerge and very competitive. Even in the advanced world, you can pair Nigerian banking sector with any of its peers in the world, whether developing or developed economies. We've done well. We've seen sustained reforms. We've seen compliance. We've even seen ourselves during the 2007, 2008, down to 2010 global financial crisis. We were able to manage that sector. It's been riding on technology over these years, even without a strong technology backbone and even without power to power this technology. These are plus. There are other sectors where I just decided to use this banking sector as an example. Even in the Nigerian telecom market, one of the biggest in Africa again, we've seen that just simple reform in 1999 where we are now. We're talking about...
That's one of the gains of democracy.
Exactly.
Opening up the economy
and
for
consistent reform
investors.
in form of job creation, in form of serving as a platform for a lot of other things to run. You know, the telecom revolution in Nigeria is another case in our hands to see that if we do little things, not big things, right, and do them consistently, of course, we'll get the right result.
What about the oil and gas sector? Are there any form of improvement?
In the oil and gas sector,
I know there are a lot of issues regarding the PIB that is yet to be passed.
Exactly.
And we got a hint about the plan by the Senate to work on it and perhaps pass it into law very soon.
We can say amen to that. In the oil and gas sector, a sector that is contributing as large as it is contributing to the Nigerian economy in terms of revenue, and even in terms of GDP contribution also is still very significant, even after post-rebasing that happened there in the year. It is a very critical sector. It was doing well up to a particular point where we need to either change the game or the tone of the game to reflect international best practices. And that is where we talk about changing the laws and rules that guide or regulate that sector. That is where we've been over the last 10 years, talking about the PIB, Petroleum Industry Bill, that have been on the table either in the Senate or House of Rep over the last 10 years. It's a good news that they've said they want to pass it. But then, looking at the distraction between this October and February next year, when the general election will happen, it will be easy to take that statement that they will pass the bill with a pinch of salt, because we've been pushing for this bill to be passed, and we've seen a lot of uncertainties that this bill hanging in the National Assembly have caused. A lot of potential foreign direct investment, about $100 billion US over the past 5 years that's supposed to flow in that sector. It's not flowing into it. And beyond the challenges of bunkering, oil theft, and all of those things that are affecting the industry, we've also seen the body language of the foreign players, especially the IOC, divesting, going to other jurisdictions. But again, like I said, Nigeria has a way of confronting our challenges. We've also seen during the period the local players, the domestic players, also emerging very strong and taking the place that some of these IOCs are taking. But then we know that if the petroleum industry bill is passed, it will do a lot of advantage to Nigeria and Nigerians, not just in the oil and gas sector, even in the power sector, even in the industrial sector, because the issue of gas is even where we are now, not just fuel, not just petroleum. The issue of gas, this petroleum industry bill is all encompassing. It's like taking the 16 current legislation and laws existing in that industry and consolidating them, and also updating it to reflect international best practices.
I'm sure that you may have listened to the president on the 1st of October when he was talking about his administration's success in transforming the economy. What sense can you make of what he said about the economy in the speech?
You know, he said a lot of things that day about security is part, because you cannot detach economy from security from economy at this time in Nigeria. And even prior to that Independence Day broadcast, through a week before then, he's been making a lot of comments about the performance of this current administration regarding economic reform, job creation, and all of those. Yeah, we at Lagos Chamber of Commerce, we subscribe to most of those assertions, but we want to move away from GDP growth, in quotes, large economy, the largest economy in Africa, about $512 billion worth economy, to quality economy, investment, an economy that can attract investment seamlessly. That is the economy we in. Because if you look at the United Nations Development Report, looking at the quality of life, that is a development index, we are one of the lowest in the ladder. 2 weeks ago, the Economic Forum, World Economic Forum released their flagship index report, that is competitive index. We see where Nigeria is, and there were a lot of reactions. What a World Bank doing business, ease of doing business report, was one of the list out of 183 proxit. I think we're 2013 we were sitting around 149. These are not good news. It means that being large and having a stable democracy is not the final answer. The final answer is about doing few things in different ways and doing them right and consistently, making sure that your democracy works, making sure that leaders, especially political leaders and even institutional leaders, live by example, move away from talk to work, making sure that transparency is the order of the day. Somebody said the other day that the root of all evil in Nigeria is corruption. And because we have a strong root in corruption, the branches and the stem and the leaf are growing very fat. So doing some of those things in form of accountability, transparency, all borders on tackling corruption with all demands of sincerity. That is what we want to see.
I know that, Vincent, you've delved into the other side of the discussion, which is about the negatives or areas that we really need to work on as a nation in terms of achieving economic growth. But I'd like you to hold the thought for a minute. We're going to go on a break, and when we come back, we'll talk more about those areas that Nigeria needs to work on, where the president and his team need to pay more attention to be able to move the economy forward. Vincent Nwani is the Director of Research and Advocacy at the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and we've been talking about the economy at 52. We'll be right back.